Hi everyone, my name is Nia O'Connell, and this segment of Elevate with Nia is all about having conversations pertaining to professional and personal growth. Today's special guest is a prominent leadership and growth accelerator who was born and raised in the beautiful island of Jamaica. She holds the title of marketing strategist, international speaker, coach, and John Maxwell certified trainer. She has also worked with several brands such as Pepsi, Lasco, Pulse, Emerge, and Redefine, just to name a few. However, her current career path was not one that she had necessarily foreseen. Stay tuned as we unravel the journey of Catherine Goodall. Kathy, welcome.
Hi, Nia. Thanks for having me.
No problem. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm good too. So as I was saying to you earlier, it feels so different being able to can sit down and talk to you on my show versus always seeing you on TV.
Work, work, work. But I am honored to be here. Thank you for thinking of me.
No problem. So as I was saying, I always saw you on TV and you hold several titles and you have acquired many years of experience under your belt. What was life for Kathy before all of that?
Oh my.
Yeah, so take me back to Kathy as a little girl before all this experience.
So I definitely think I need to start with prep school because I think that's where I forged most of my relationships, my meaningful relationships. I went to Mona Prep, which I'm very proud of, and located in Kingston, Jamaica. And I think that that's where I got my fundamental values and my friendships. So a lot of the lasting relationships that I have now are from when I was in prep school. And then I graduated from Mona Prep and I went to the Immaculate Conception High School, which is an all-girls Catholic school in Jamaica. And a lot of my friends went to different schools. So some went to St. Andrew High School, some went to Campion, my best friend went to Alpha, and we were all separated. And so I think in high school is when I started to now find my space because now I had to develop new friendships. I had to, figure things out pretty much on my own at that point. And I think that's when I started to come into myself. I was very active. I was active in sports. I used to swim. I was very active in my what do you call it? My house. So, for those of you that don't know, in Jamaica, we have houses, and those are teams that you're assigned to throughout your tenure in school, where you compete in different areas. So I used to swim, I used to run, I used to play netball. I was very active. And so I also forged a lot of relationships in high school. Now, my academic prowess was in prep school. My father made sure that I did my schoolwork. Same was true in high school. But, he was a pilot, so he wasn't there as often because, which was okay with me because he was a disciplinarian. And when I got into third form and I realized that I had a lot more freedom, a lot more flexibility, he was around a lot less. And at that point now you're starting to choose classes where your areas of focus were going to be. And I actually ended up, well, let me say repeating a grade. So my year, they actually created a hybrid fourth form class where you did some third form classes and some fourth form classes because you weren't really ready academically to move into fourth form. And I guess at that point, they didn't really want you to feel like you're being held back. So I don't know, maybe it was the optics. So essentially I ended up repeating, I don't know, third or fourth form. You can pick whichever one. But for me, it wasn't so detrimental because I started school early. I'm born in December, and we start school in September at 5, and I started, or 4 years old at that time, and I started when I was 3. And so I still ended up graduating high school or 11th grade at 16. So I mean, I could afford to repeat a year.
Young.
I focused on business just because it was easier. I was not doing the sciences, and at that time it was science or business. So I did it because, you know, I was good at it, and it was for me easy, quote unquote. Then I went to university. I got into school, and at that time, my dad actually said that he didn't think I was ready to go away for school, and that he was not going to spend his money to send me because he didn't think that I was ready. That's putting it nicely. And my parents were still together. So I know I keep saying my father, but my parents were still together. And my mom was like, well, she got in. I actually got into several universities at that time because my SAT scores weren't bad. And I had gotten a partial scholarship to Barry University, Miami, Florida. And so my mom was like, well, she's my daughter, and I'm going to make sure that, you know, she goes. And so my mom and my mom's best friend actually co-signed on a loan for me to go to Barry. Yes. So of course, you know, my first semester I was out gate running, and I did very well. My GPA was, I think, 3.9 my first semester. Or 3.97. Like, I did really well my first semester because now I had to prove my father wrong, right? Second semester, GPA fell a little bit, but it was like 3 point, maybe 2 or 4 or something like that. So it wasn't detrimental. My third semester, not so good. By that time, I was well seasoned at school, well seasoned in Miami, and I'm a people person generally. I love people, and I guess people gravitate towards me too because I love people. And so I was always out having a grand time, partying.
Miami.
Right, living it up, you know. It's not like I didn't have freedom or flexibility in Jamaica because, you know, like I said, I was a responsible child for the most part, you know, so my parents trusted me. However, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I've never done that. But I was just always out because I just love to be around people, and I love to be around what was happening, you know. And so my school became, you know, less of a focus, and I was, you know, distracted by too many other things. And so my third semester, my GPA went to like 2.9. So you can see that I never did any work, right? And so the Christmas I went home, and then I got a letter from the school to say that I was on academic probation. Now, at that time, the school fee was like $25,000 a year. So I had done 1 year, and I was in my second year now, second semester about to start. And of course, the disappointment from my mother was like torture. And I said to myself, well, you could either go back to school and like try to buckle down and sort yourself out, or maybe you should take the semester off. And I decided to take the semester off because I think I needed to refocus. I needed to kind of recenter myself. And so I came back home. I came back to Jamaica to work, and I worked for a year actually. And that really helped put life into perspective because now you're paying student loans and working in Jamaican dollars. And now you need to think about, okay, what's next? You need to go back to school. Yeah. And of course, my father is like, well, I'm certainly not paying for that. And at that point, no, I had run out of brownie points with my mother as well. So now it's time for me to send myself to school. So you're paying for student loan, paying for school fee, and working. That kind of helps to snap you back to reality really quickly. So I went from being, you know, a free-spirited, somewhat wayward child. And we won't even bother getting to what activities I was doing during, I mean, there's some places that if my mother ever knew that I was, she would just kill me. And so, I mean, I've certainly, my brother said to me the other day, it's so crazy that 4 of us have grown up in the same house and we have had completely different childhoods. And I am certainly the most exposed out of all of us. And so, you know, it helped me to refocus, but I was definitely not always focused on school. I definitely was not driven, meaning I always worked hard. I always had something to do. I always had a job, but there was nothing that I ever really worked towards. I mean, in high school, I wanted to be a flight attendant because my dad was a pilot and I knew like all of Air Jamaica. And so, you know, in third form, I wanted to be a flight attendant. But by the time I graduated from school, that went through the door. When I went to university, my degree started in psychology. It ended in sociology. I wanted to do social work. So I was all over the place. I just knew that I love people. I knew that I wanted to work with people. My father used to tell me that, you know, you can't help anybody else if you can't help yourself. And doing social work was not the way, because then you'll be broke and you won't be able to help anybody. And, you know, at that time, I felt like nothing I wanted to do, anybody supported. And I was just, I guess, I displayed some form of rebellion at all times, in different ways. And then you realize that the only person that you're really hurting is yourself. You know, so it took some difficulty for me to really figure out my purpose here, and it took some self-seeking for me to find out what matters to me, and for me to really get my life to where it is now, the structure that it has, the direction that I'm moving in, and the focus that I have now. I never had before. So Cathy was definitely a wayward young lady. Thank God, you know, I don't have any major scars coming out of it, but I certainly have a lot of lessons that I've learned.
Amazing. But through all of that though, Cathy, I know that previously you had told me that every summer and every Christmas you would ensure that you had an internship or a summer or Christmas job. So I think you were probably building your character at the same time. So tell us a little bit more about how you started your work experience from the tender age of 14.
Legally, I can say 14, but before that, I used to volunteer at my doctor's office, and just help them to sort out files and to answer the phone. Because again, I just love people and I love doing things. I like to be active. And so when I actually was of age to work, I started working at a clothing store, at my aunt's clothing store. And it was kind of like a department store in Jamaica. And every summer and every Christmas I was there. And of course, Christmas is the busiest period. So you have different personalities that you're dealing with. You have to be very organized, very structured. So it helped to certainly hone some of my communication skills, my organizational skills. And then when I was 16, I'll tell you a funny story. Some of my friends convinced me to enter a model competition.
What?
So I went and I did the elimination round, and I actually got into the competition. And the night they were launching the competition, we were at this nightclub called Mirage, and we were supposed to go on stage in a swimsuit and model as this launch for the competition. So I go to the nightclub, all the girls are there, and I'm just like, you have got to be sniffing something, because this is not even your personality. What are you doing?
Why am I here?
And so I was like, nope, I'm not walking out on any stage in any swimsuit in front of anybody. So on to the next one. I went back to Kingsley Cooper and I said to him, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be in the pageant. I'm sure I would have, learned and gained a lot from it, but it's not for me. I said, however, if you want to hire me.
You're just right there.
And he said, okay, let's try it. I'm sure it helped that he went to school with my father. And so there was some connection. And he hired me. I was about 15, I think, at the time. So I ended up working on that same model competition. I started doing production for it. He used to do a lot of events at the time. So concerts, Miss Jamaica Universe, Caribbean Fashion Week actually birthed out of during the period that I was there. And so I actually worked at Pulse for 12 years. So even when I went back to school, he would bring me back to Jamaica to work on different events. And so a lot of most of what I've learned from logistics, marketing, management, bookings, all from my experience at Pulse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's all just from the fact that you did not want to model in that swimsuit. And you just said to him, hey, I'm not doing this, but if you want to hire me, I can work behind the scenes.
And I realized at that point that not everybody was made to be in front of a camera. And I actually enjoyed being behind the camera. I loved it.
That's nice. And I think that a lot of people sometimes would have been shy to do that, but just being bold and talking up and stating and declaring, I'm available for this, it makes a huge difference, because chances are you would have just walked home and that would have been it, end of conversation. You would have said, yeah, thank you for having me here, and gone home. But the fact that you were so bold to say, hey, I'm available for this opportunity. If you would like, please hire me.
And I can honestly say he's like my second father to this day. I've learned so much from him.
That's so nice. So, fast forwarding a little bit, so you're in university, you've graduated. What next? Where did Cathy go after graduation?
Oh, so I worked throughout my entire period at school. So Barry for me was my college life, and that was for a year and a half. After that, I was working and going to school at the same time. So I had no college experience, right? Meaning I didn't get to live on campus again. I didn't get to experience that college life. I wasn't active in like Caribbean Students Association anymore. And so I literally didn't enjoy being at FIU, which is where I graduated from. So after FIU, I finished my degree in sociology, but I was always working. So at one point I was working at a law firm, world of experience there. And then I started to work for a clothing company called Queer, which is a Jamaican-owned company, international brand that I was able to develop and grow over a 3-year period. And I started a artist merchandising division for them. So we used to make merchandise for different artists. So like Sizzla Capleton, Dennis Brown, Kimani Marley, Taurus Riley. I mean, you name it, almost every Jamaican artist, Buju Banton, we created their merchandising line for them. And so because of that, once again, people started calling me to ask me to book artists for shows, because I had relationships with them from before. And eventually I ended up managing Kimani Marley, which was for a very long time. So I was traveling, doing all manner of things. And then I also started working with a basketball player. I was his executive assistant. So I literally ran his entire life, business, professional and personal. And I was again traveling all over the place, and I was doing both at one point, Kimani and Jerome. And again, life was just happening. It was just existing. It was like one opportunity came up and I took it, another opportunity came up and I took it, some I took at the same time. But again, I was just functional. I'm highly functional when I'm busy, when I have things to do, but I didn't have a plan. I had no plan whatsoever. And so even after school, I literally was just opportunities just kept presenting itself, and I would just take advantage of the opportunities. I was still doing event production. I was still working on like some of the largest festivals in Miami at that time. And so I was kind of just busy being busy. That's the truth. I honestly cannot say that I had any sense of direction at that time. I was just highly functional.
And you were trying to figure it all out too at the same time.
And you know what? I wasn't trying to figure it out. That's the truth. I wasn't. I knew something was missing, but at one point because I was so busy all the time and because I was always traveling, it's like I didn't really take the time to slow down. I moved to New York after a while, and I was helping one of my friends restructure his business. He has a big media company in New York, and I was helping him restructure. And I was there for about 6 months. And it was during that time, being away from what I was accustomed to, being away from my normal day-to-day, that I started to process where my life was, what I was doing with it, what direction I wanted to move in. And I still didn't have an answer, I was in a relationship that was not good for me for quite some time. And I just got to the point where I literally knew that it had to be done. And this might be taking your podcast in a totally different direction, but my turning point was literally on the bathroom floor of my apartment in New York, where I was face down and I was like, okay, God, I can't do this anymore. I just need you to just literally take the wheel. I locked myself in the bathroom and I just couldn't stop crying. I was listening to my praise and worship music on my computer. and my Bible in my hand, and I wasn't even reading anything or doing anything, but it was just the comfort of having it there to clutch onto. And I was just like, I'm done. Like, take me out of this relationship, take me out of this situation, take me out of everything that you want me to be removed from, just remove me, and I'm ready to just be obedient and to do whatever you want me to do at this point. And I think that was when I was just like, your will is the direction that I'm moving in. And so I moved back to Florida. And the short version of the story is that God just he literally just started to remove things from my life. I mean, my car got repossessed, my house went into foreclosure. He was like, all right, you say you want me to remove, I'm removing everything that has been distracting you, everything that was not serving the purpose that I needed to serve in your life is coming out, it's being pulled away. And I was like, all right, I hear you. I'm ready. And I kid you not, I won't want to stray too far, but the short version of the story is that when I decided that I was going to be obedient to what God wanted for my life, and release the things that he didn't, everything just started to fall into place. I got a phone call from a gentleman in Jamaica. His name was Carlo Redwood. He was the head of marketing at Pepsi at the time. And he said to me that his brand manager was going on maternity leave and he needed a replacement for her for 3 months. Would I be interested? So I was like, well, I don't know anything about being a brand manager, but like I said, every opportunity that comes, I'm open to hearing about it, right? So he said, well, there's an interview process. I have other candidates. Can you send me a resume? So I sent my resume. He called me back and he said, I said, you don't realize I'm in Florida, right? He said, yes. Had not lived in Jamaica for 12 years, right? So he called me back. I did the interview. He called me back again. I did another interview. And then he called me back again on a Friday. And he said to me, can you start on a Monday? So I was like, okay, my whole entire life is in Florida. My family is in Florida. I have nothing in Jamaica at this point, right? So I said, okay, let me get back to you. So I called my aunt, my mom's sister, and I said to her, I have this opportunity. And she said, yeah, of course, come, you can stay with me. Okay. My best friend had gotten killed in Jamaica a few years before. And his mom was like, I don't want you here. I don't want you to come back. I just want you to go and be done. So of course I called her because I am still very close to her. She is an integral part of my life. And I said, Mom, I got this offer from Pepsi. They want me to come to Jamaica for 3 months. I know how you feel about me being there, but I just wanted to know what you think anyway. She said, come and I'll give you a car to drive. I was like, okay, well, clearly this is what God wants for me because, I get a job, I get somewhere to live, and I get a car to drive, then clearly this is where he wants me to be, right? So when I work out the maths now, I was like, but them can't pay me though. But you know what? I just said, I'm going to be obedient. So I came home, 3 months turned into 5 months at Pepsi. And they offered me a permanent position, but I didn't want to take it because it was a position that was kind of trial and error. And I knew that there was no future for it. And so I said, let me just cut my losses and move on, right? Because they certainly couldn't pay me to stay there for an extended period of time. I was literally living off of savings by the time I was in Jamaica, right? So before I left Pepsi, I got 5 job offers. I didn't apply for 1 job. And I took a job where I had to restructure a division it was an ice company. And I was the head of their commercial division. And so I literally had to build out their route, do all the restructuring, their distribution, everything. And it was great. I loved my team. I loved my boss. But I had a conflict with the HR/GM at the time. And I knew that if I stayed, it's either I was going to lose my soul or it wouldn't have ended well. And so I said, you know what? It's time for me to move on. And I handed in my resignation on the Friday. Friday evening, I got a phone call from the same Carla Redwood at Pepsi. And he said to me, the head of Pepsi at the time was creating a new division. And he said, you're the person that he wants to run it. Same day that I resigned. And I was like, but again, I don't know anything about trade marketing. He said he will teach you. I said, okay. So now I moved from being the brand manager, reporting to Carlo, to being in a position that was on the same level as him, being able to building out an entire division, being able to create my own team, building out my own processes, building out my own procedures, and creating an entire division from zero. I think at that time, I didn't think about it, because if I thought about it, it would have probably overwhelmed me.
Yeah, you would have probably not taken on the offer.
Right. But I knew the people that I was going to be working with. I knew my boss, I knew Carlo, I knew the entire team at Pepsi. And I think I was just excited to be in that space again. And I mean, come on, who doesn't want to work at Pepsi?
Yeah, right?
I'm a Pepsi baby. I drink Pepsi constantly. And so I decided to take on that adventure. And I believe it is where God wanted me at that time, because he just opened so many doors for me. And I got a promotion every year that I was at Pepsi. So my last position there was a regional position. I was the head of juices for Latin America and the Caribbean. I don't speak one word of Spanish. Note to self. And so, you know, it was an amazing period of my life. I think I really came into myself at that point. And I knew now with clarity the things that I wanted to do, the things that I enjoyed doing, and my purpose for being here. I started a mentorship program when I moved back to Jamaica. I finally found a church home in Jamaica, which was very important to me, because that's what keeps me grounded. And I finally found my space. You know, marketing was my space. It was the place that I got to take things from nothing and make them into something. And that's what I knew I was good at. And so I think that concept of taking things from nothing and making them into something, or taking things from where it is and making it better, is what I was created to do, whether it's with people or brands or things. And so my girlfriends, my business partners at Emerge, gave me my elevator pitch is, I'm a connector of brands, businesses, and people. And so that's where it came from, you know. And so after Pepsi, I left because I was tired of traveling. I was tired of being on the road.
You don't hear that often.
Yeah. My entire early life, all of my 20s, early 30s, I spent on the road. I was traveling constantly. And so I was a nomad. I lived nowhere, really. I was away more than I was at home. And so I got to the point where I was like, it's a lot. And so I got tired. And then when I left Pepsi the second time, I went home with no plan, because I was just like, God, you must have greater plan for me. This is not it. I'm tired all the time. I don't get to be around the people that I love. I just I need time to breathe. And you know, when you just feel that peace with the decision, I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where I was going or what I was going to do after, but I knew that I would be okay. Because I felt like God was like, all right, you gave it your all. Now you can go home and relax. I was at home for 1 week.
1 week?
1 week. And my phone just started to ring. I got calls from all over. It's like people just found out that I was no longer at Pepsi. I didn't tell anybody. Right. I'm not one of those people that goes and updates my profile or anything like that. As a matter of fact, at that time, LinkedIn wasn't even out. Facebook was around. Instagram, I don't even think Instagram was around at that time.
That's great, word of mouth.
And so people just started to call me. And so I started working on projects back in entertainment again, which whatever.
You thought you walked away from.
You know, but because of who asked me, is people that I was close to, that, you know, I knew. Anyway, I did it. And I got 9 job offers, all executive level. I didn't apply for one job.
9 exec positions.
Yes. As a matter of fact, one company offered me 2 jobs. I turned down the first job that they offered me, and then they offered me another position at a higher, yeah.
You are in.
And you know, and so this is a lesson. What I would tell everybody is that regardless of where you are, regardless of what you're doing, one, you don't know who's paying attention.
Yes.
Who is watching you. So you need to always operate in excellence and give your best, because you don't know who's paying attention. I mean, people that called me with job offers are people, some of them I've never met, some of them I never knew. Some I have great relationships with now just from doing interviews with them. And the last job offer that I got was from Lasco. And it's so crazy because I went in there, the owner for Lasco at the time said to me that he was on vacation and he came to the office just to meet me because he heard about me and he wanted to know what the hype was about.
What? You're kidding.
Nope. Now imagine he was like 80 years old, right? He's like an 80-year-old man. Yeah. I was like, so then he says to me, I didn't even know that I was going to Lasco to get a job offer because I had been helping their managing director with a project from before, just like advising. It wasn't a job or anything. And little did I know it was a series of interviews, right? And so he says to me, the owner says to me, you know, you should actually be paying me to work here. And I was like, what is the command? Anyway, I got the job offer and something about it just said, this is where you need to be. And I signed immediately without hesitation. And it's the best decision I ever made. You know, I had to then call back another major company who was their competitor that had given me an offer that morning. And I was like, what? Maybe next time. But I was so grateful. I was so grateful for the reception that I got. I was so grateful that people saw value in me. And so again, always, always, always give of your best. And the other lesson that I would want anybody to get is that regardless of what your situation is, regardless of your circumstances, there's always an opportunity for a new start, a new beginning. I mean, I could go into millions of stories about poor choices that I have made, but those don't matter because I acknowledged that when it was time for me to start making better choices, I did. And through making better choices, my life became better.
Wow. We're really unraveling here, Cathy. There's so many layers to you. One of the key themes in your story is having faith. Yeah. And really trusting in God that He will let things all fall in line. Yeah. And also too, the power of starting over. A lot of people don't want to start over because they're not sure about what will happen next, especially as an international student who took the leap to come back home. As an international student myself, as a Jamaican, a lot of people will say, don't go back home. And you got a call to go back home. And even though you're at one of the biggest companies, it was like, you can't pay me. So even then you took a chance. You lived in faith. That's really
But people talk about being afraid to start over, but sometimes you can't look at it as starting over. You think about it as a new beginning and a fresh start. So it's different. One is, I have to start from zero, or wow, I have an opportunity to create something new and to start over, create a new slate for myself. And so I think perspective is something that's very important, how we choose to look at situations. My brother said to me, he's moving to Maine and he lived in Colorado and now his family's moving to Maine. So they are starting over. And he said to me, I said, well, my sister-in-law's family lives in Maine. And he says where the house is that they bought is 20 minutes from her sister and 25 minutes from their parents. And so he goes, well, I said, well, that's not bad. And he goes, well, we can't just drop them off to do anything. And I said, well, think about it from this perspective. They're much closer than when you were in Denver. And he's like, oh, well, so a 20-minute, 25-minute drive will take nothing out of you compared to having to jump on 2 planes to get there, right? So I think perspective is important, and how we choose to view a situation is what is going to make the difference with what we get from that situation. So whether we're going to learn and grow from a situation, or we're going to, depress ourselves and feel sorry for ourselves and focus on what's not happening and what's not going the way that we want it to, as opposed to creating opportunities and focusing on what great can come out of the situation.
I agree. I really agree. Thank you for that, Cathy. So I know you spoke about your girlfriends giving you your little mantra, but the first time I was able to attend one of the workshops, Emerge, for those who do not know, you should know. I tell you a funny story. So my mother, she was aware of what Emerge was. I think I was probably 19. I was not necessarily aware of what it was. Then she said, at this time in high school, I was starting to find myself a little bit more. Just like you, I wasn't sure where I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And she was like, hey, I think this would be good for you. Lots of empowerment, powerful people on the platform. Go. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. How long is it? She goes, like from 10 to 5. I was like, I was like, oh, never mind.
On a Saturday at that.
I teenager, like, and then I was like, are you gonna come with me? And she was like, no, you go by yourself. I go, and the morning of it, so I was like, all right, yes, mommy, fine, I'll go. In the morning, I was sleeping and I was like, mommy, I really don't want to go. And she was like, she started cussing. It's like, go. Boy, sometimes you must listen to your parents. I mean, for anyone who has not gone, let me tell you firsthand, it's an amazing workshop. I got breakfast and it was at the AC Hotel, and I believe that this was the second staging of Emerge.
Yeah, it was the second. Yeah,
this was in July, and I think you had hosted the first one in March. But man, I was there. I had lunch. I had shrimp pasta, and I got so engaged that the speakers, a lot of them I never knew about, and to hear the success stories of Jamaicans, I think that was powerful for me as a young person, because a lot of times, as I said before, you don't hear a lot of successful stories in Jamaica, and people tell you, it's Jamaica, you need to go here and go there because Jamaica is so small. But to be able to hear these stories was powerful, to the point where I think it was like 5 o'clock or after 5, Patrick Hilton was doing the panel discussion with Rochelle, and I had to get my question in because hello, it's Patrick Hilton. Right? So they're asking my question on everything, and I'm feeling good. And my mommy calls me. I'm outside. It's 5 o'clock. I'll go, can you give me 5 minutes? Of course, when I got in that car, she was like, you see why you should listen to your mother. You see, now you don't even want to leave. So I just want to firsthand thank you again, you and your team, for putting that together. It was really powerful. But I want to get into a little bit what from your side of the story. I know it's 3 of you, but from your side, how did that even come about?
Ooh, all right. So, well, thank you first of all for taking your Saturday to come and emerge with us. I'm happy that it impacted you in a very positive way. So one day, a lot of motivational events started happening in Jamaica, and so I would speak at some, I would participate in some, I would go just to support because I knew the people that were putting them on, and they were great. You get to feel empowered and you feel good. But then what I realized was that when you leave, a lot of people don't know what to do next. Yeah. And so, I was very concerned about the fact that people come and they hear other people's stories and they get motivated, but then some people don't actually know what actual next steps need to be taken in order for their life to progress in a certain direction. And so I was talking to Naomi one day, Naomi Garrick, the PR chick, and I said to her, I'm really just a little over all the motivational stuff. And so I'm not taking away from it. I just think that now we need to add another element. I think that people need to be able to understand actionable next steps. And so she's like, Rochelle and I were just talking about that the other day. And I was like, oh, really? So I said, hold on. And I literally conferenced Rochelle. And I said, Naomi and I are coming to your house on Monday. This was a Friday evening. And she's like, okay. That was it. Went to Rochelle's house the Monday. And I told her, this is how I'm feeling. And this is what I think Jamaica is lacking. And she's just like, same thing. Naomi and I were just talking about that. So I was like, okay, so let's do it. So they're like, okay, let's do it. And so we literally sat at Rochelle's dining table the night. And we're like, okay, so what are we going to call it? And literally Emerge was just in my spirit. And when I said it, they were like, yeah, that's it. That's it. And so I registered the name. Rochelle registered the name. And then we registered the business. This was November. December came, and so we said, okay, we need to figure out when the first staging is going to be. So we said, well, Christmas, people broke in January, have no money in January. February, people are just starting to recover. Plus, people go through the visioning and the planning for the new year, and everybody has a resolution. But then by March, you're like, it's forgotten. Yeah. So March is a good time because now you're kind of helping to redirect people to refocus on what they wanted to accomplish. And now you're helping them to be able to accomplish it. All the noise of Christmas is done. They've gone through the recovery of January and February. And so now it's time for them to put life into real perspective. So Rochelle did an event in January. And she says to us, okay, guys, I have a speaking engagement at the end of January and I'm going to announce Emerge. And we're like, say what now? At this point,
she's ready to go.
We had nothing planned. We never have a venue. We never have a date. All of this was hypothetical, right?
Hold on.
At this point.
Hold on. In January, you never had a plan. You never had a date. But it was executed in March?
Wait, it gets better. So Rochelle says I'm going to announce it. Mm-hmm. So Naomi says, okay, well, we need to have something to give people. So she created some business card size with a logo. We got a logo done.
Right.
Which I was clear. I got the logo done. So we got the logo. And actually, here is the logo. Got the logo done. And then on the back of the logo was a form for people to fill out if they wanted to come to the event. So Rochelle announces the dates and says that we're having the event on March 7th.
Hold on, she gave us a date too?
March 7th. And he made us stand up. So for all who never knew us before, then you know. And now there's accountability, right? Mm-hmm. So we now on a public platform have declared that Emerge is happening. So there is real accountability. So after we left the event, which was a Saturday, I literally started to call venues. So this is the end of January. Pegasus was booked. All the major venues were booked. And I called the Spanish court and they said, yes, the venue is available. I drove to the Spanish court and paid a deposit.
Right then and there.
I then sent a picture of the receipt to Rochelle and Naomi and said, we have a venue.
Aww.
And at that point, we're like, okay, now we really need to go into production mode, right? And I will say again that we knew that this was definitely orchestrated by God because Rochelle, Naomi, and I were not best of friends. Naomi and I are childhood friends, but Rochelle, I don't even know how I know Rochelle. I cannot pinpoint a time when I can say that I met her, but we were just always in a shared space. And she was just always a woman that I had the utmost admiration for. And I was speaking at an event And she came up to me the night before and she said to me, I am coming to this event to see you. I was like, what? What? Like, why would you even tell me that? Yeah. And she goes, I cannot wait to hear you speak. And I'm just like, in my head now, I'm just like, this lady know that all she's doing is putting pressure on me.
I'm nervous.
Listen. And then she just started to speak life into me at that point. And I was just like, wow, you are an amazing human being. So the three of us coming together was, we believe, orchestrated purely by God. And we believe that Emerge was placed in each of us because we are three different personalities. We are three different personality types. Our values are aligned, thank God for that. But the way that we think is different, you know? And we did the production, like I said, it had to be orchestrated by God. I mean, sponsors were calling us to sponsor the event.
I was just about to ask, what about the funding?
Sponsors called us about the event. I mean, we literally, bless God, were turning away sponsorship.
Wow.
NCB was our partner for the first year. Thank God for them. And it was great. And I think that they were who we needed at that time. And so we are so grateful for them. NCB Capital Markets and NCB Insurance were our partners. Moving into the second year, COVID happened last year. And so everybody was restructuring, everybody was refocused, and we had to pivot and we had to refocus as well. We became an online presence, which none of us had planned for. And we had to make it work, you know. And then this year, I am pleased to say that we have a new partnership for the year with Sagicor. And we're super excited about all the amazing things that God has planned for this year. And, you know, the stories and the testimonials that we've gotten out of Emerge, that's the reason that we do it. It's not a money-making venture for us. You know I shouldn't say that out loud, especially because a big part of what we do is help people to, you know, have profitable businesses, but we're not losing any money. And it really has been a blessing. It really has been a blessing. And it has given each of us an outlet to use our talents in a different way, you know, outside of our 9 to 5, you know, and all of us are entrepreneurs now. All of us have our own businesses. I have my marketing consultancy. Naomi has her PR agency. Rochelle has her consultancy as well. She does legal and strategic planning for companies. But Emerge has definitely been a necessary part of our life. Yeah.
The three of your personalities really, like, I know you say you guys are different, but when I see the three of you together and I watch the series on YouTube, you really mesh well.
Yeah, I think we complement each other. And you know what? I think it's because we know each other so well that it makes it easy for us. I mean, it's not always easy. But one thing is that we've always been very respectful of each other. And so even when we disagree, the respect is and the love is always there. And so we voice our piece and we move on.
And that's important because, you know, you at the end of the day, you're three different people. But what I love about it is that you get to bring three different perspectives to one table. And so the events that you guys will put on will be a little bit of something, and I love that.
Thank you.
How does it feel being online though, doing Emerge versus in person? And I know you're a people person, so not being able to see people, hug people, touch, you know, being right there, you know, what's the difference?
Oh, it's a big difference. First of all, I don't like to be in front of a camera. We already established that. And so it was really hard for me to show up on camera all the time. I think it was necessary though, because it has birthed a lot of other things that are to come. And I think it has helped us, each of us, to connect in a different way to our audience. Because, you know, when you're in person, you get to feel, you know, the energy of everybody. You get to see the expressions on their faces. You can tell, well, maybe not going that direction, maybe moving a different direction. But when you're online, it's like you're talking to yourself, you know?
You're kind of crazy.
And so you're only hoping and praying that you're engaging them. The great thing, especially about Detour Essentials, is that we have a very active viewership. Yeah. And they're not afraid to communicate. And so literally the chat is, I have learned to feed off of the chat. And because I manage all of the back end, so all the productions back end on a Wednesday, I do it. So I get to control what's happening in the production, and I get to like really engage and interact through the chat, and that really keeps me connected, you know, and I need that. Rochelle and Naomi are very good at camera and being in front of a camera. I am not. So it's different, but it has certainly opened us up to a much wider demographic. You know, people that want to have always said that they wanted to come to Emerge and haven't been able to come. They kept asking us when we're going to put it online, when we're going to start streaming, and we've done that now. So we have people from the UK, from Asia, from Europe, all over the place, US, Canada, that join us every single week. I mean, there are two young ladies in London who we have never met. And I mean, at the time when Emerge is, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning there, and they do not miss an episode. They're there live every week. It's crazy. I'm like, you don't have work?
Loyal fans.
We have people that have that join us from China, that join us from Japan. I mean, it really is overwhelming to see the Caribbean, all over the Caribbean. It really makes us feel good to know that we're able to have a greater reach, you know. And so COVID definitely has helped us to even pivot and to think about things in a different way and to come out of our box.
I love that, because I tell you what, on my Snapchat, when I went to Emerge the first time, of course I took a lot of different videos and pictures. So now when I get the memories, I post them and my friends are seeing and they're like, hold on, what was this? Where was this? I go, it's Emerge, but because it's COVID time, it's not in person anymore. But you can see they have live shows on YouTube. And they're like, I'm like, yes. So there is some benefit to the pivoting.
Absolutely, definitely. It has actually been more beneficial than not for us to be online, because it has definitely helped us to reach more people. And it has helped us to create more structure for our stuff too. I mean, we've always had workbooks, but now, you know, we can structure it so that people that join the workshop, they'll get the workbooks online, and you know, it's not. It really has helped us to expand our scope as well.
I love it. Keep it up, because I love to watch it. I tell you quickly, my favorite episode right now was the one with Miss Kitty.
Yeah.
Talk about energy.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, but we could keep going on and on about Emerge. But I know, Cathy, you were mentioning that you were traveling a lot in your 20s and you worked for Pepsi and Lasco and all different experiences. But how does it feel now having your own marketing consultancy called Redefine?
So Redefine was actually birthed with one of my friends from high school. Her name is Pettitine Williams Cheeks. She's a chartered accountant and she is very structured. She's a serious businesswoman. I am not as structured. And so one day we're talking, and literally at my dining table, and she had this vision to do a company that was creating processes and procedures for companies. Because, you know, like I said, she's very structured and she's very much into processes. So whether it's creating an application that helps you to structure your business better, especially from an accounting perspective, you know, she's very mechanical that way and methodic. And I'm at the polar opposite of where she is, right? But we were talking about the fact that a lot of small businesses lack structure. They don't have the resources for marketing. They don't know, their business gets to a certain point and they don't know how to get it past that point. And so I sat on the board for the Women's Entrepreneurial Network, and I also sat on the board for the Jamaica Manufacturers Association. So I was directors for both of those organizations, and it gave me a lot of exposure to other businesses, especially small and medium businesses. And so another passion that I have is being able to help smaller companies, small and medium-sized businesses to develop to their true potential, right? And so she's very passionate about that as well. And I was just like, well, let's just start another company then, you know? So Redefine was actually birthed before Emerge. Let me just say that, right? But it was while I was still employed. And so I was just quietly getting clients and giving them to her and, you know, doing my thing. But Redefine was actually registered in, I want to say 2018, but I don't remember. How did the name come about? It was the same thing. It was, what are we doing to help businesses? We're helping them to redefine where they are, and you know, and she was like, I love it. The logo took some time for us to agree on, but you know, we started. And so it's wonderful. You know, I love my clients. Marketing fulfills a different part of me that people development doesn't. And so I think I get the best of both worlds having Emerge and Redefine. It's, you know, I love to help businesses, and which is why I also have a project now, Carib Shopper, which it's an online e-commerce platform that focuses on export from the Caribbean to the rest of the world. So it again helps with the development of small businesses. So a big challenge that we have in the Caribbean is the inability to grow because we don't have the capacity, or it's too expensive. So to export from the Caribbean usually costs more to ship than what the product cost is. And so with Carib Shopper, we've created a platform. It's a marketplace where merchants can list their products at no cost to them, and we ship it to anywhere in the US, soon to be Canada and the UK as well, but right now we're focused on the US, and it has been doing really well. Eventually we want to be able to be focused on capacity building. So if Nia has a pen that she wants to sell and she doesn't have the capacity to make 2,000 pens, but I, Carib Shopper, know now that Nia has the capacity to sell 2,000 pens, then I will be able to now buy the 2,000 pens up front and say, here, Nia, here's the money for the 2,000 pens. Now go and make them, you know? And so I'm in a place where I am literally living all the things that excite me and that I'm passionate about and that makes me happy.
Nice. What I like about that is that you found it okay to not have that, you know, to not necessarily have everything figured out in the beginning, but you're now so content now that everything has fallen into place.
Yes.
And I really admire that.
Thank you.
Looking back at all that you've accomplished and all that you've done, when you were younger, could you have imagined that you would have accomplished so much at such a young age, especially being the fact that a lot of your experience was in your 20s?
No, definitely not. You know, my father used to say that my siblings, the boys are bright, academically bright. My sister is the one that's creative. You know, she used to dance, she used to sing, she's a creative one. And Cathy, she has good social skills. And at the time, you know, I didn't know how to receive that, right? And to this day, he will say, that's not how he said it, and that's not what he intended. I said, no, I can appreciate what you said, you know, and you know, your parents, like you said, your parents tend to know you better than most. And, you know, even if you're not ready to receive it at the time, in hindsight, it's a world of wisdom that comes from them, right? And I can honestly say that I certainly didn't know that I was going to end up where I am, but I always knew that I couldn't fail, right? One thing my mother instilled in me from early was to always have my own. And so regardless of what it was, I knew that I had to always do well regardless. And so in every single job that I've ever had, I have always given it my all. And I think because of that, I always learned everything that I could. I always grew in ways that I didn't even plan to grow, just from soaking everything up. you know, and through living, my mother also always taught me that you must treat others the way that you want to be treated, you know. And so that for me has been a life lesson that I've taken everywhere. And I believe that it is what has helped me to build a network that I have. And according to my friends, I have a very extensive network, right? But I think it's because of all the different industries that I've worked in. But because I live good with everybody, and I treat everybody the way that I would want to be treated, it has helped me to also develop as an individual and to grow my network. And in every area of our lives, we know that it's about who you know, right? And so one good thing that I can say is that, especially from my marketing life and my entertainment life, I've met people from all walks of life. And even to this day, if at Lasco, if the marketing team needs something done in the warehouse, I'll get a call and say, can you call your husband for me, please? Because again, you have to live good with people. And so I was able to, I've always been able to extract value from my relationships, because I've also always been able to add value to my relationships. And so I think it's important too for people to understand that in any relationship that we have, it needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship. It can't be one in which you're always taking or in which you're always giving, because then you'll be depleted or that person will be depleted. And so being able to always learn from whichever situation that I'm in, being able to always treat people with the level of respect that I'm expecting from them, and always giving of my best in every situation, I think is what has always made me do well in every situation that I have been in, and has always opened doors to greater things for me. I think if nothing else, those three simple things is what I would say has carried me throughout my life.
I am just wowed as we go along this interview, honestly. But speaking of, living good with people and connections and knowing that everything runs on who you know, what is some piece of advice you would give to younger persons like myself in their 20s who's about to embark on their career journey? What piece of advice would you give them to make themselves more marketable in the professional world, being the fact that it is so competitive?
Yeah. So the first thing I would tell you is that you need to always get experience. And experience doesn't necessarily have to be in the field of work that you're going to be in. Experience shows that you're trainable. Experience shows that you're taking initiative, right? So even if it means that you're going to go and volunteer somewhere, I think I have learned more from volunteering than from being employed, right? So I would first tell you to get as much experience as you can in any area. It doesn't have to be in an area that's related to what it is that you want to do. I also would tell you that if you are able to get experience in an area that you do want to do, be willing to volunteer for it. Not everything is going to be paid coming out the door. And I also would say that you need to know what you're trying to extract from the experience. So like I said, when I went to Pepsi the first time, I knew that they couldn't pay me. I knew that what they were offering me was, I couldn't live off of that. But I wanted the experience. I wanted to know if coming back to Jamaica was something that was even an option for me. I'd always in my mind envisioned coming home, but because I never had a reason to be here, I never, made it a priority. And so the 3 months being at Pepsi for the first year, I knew that even though they couldn't pay me, one, it was giving me the exposure to an industry that I had never had before. I was going to get a world of experience and knowledge. It would have given me enough time to be home to decide if I wanted to stay or not. And it would have helped to put me in a position that I never would have gotten in the States or anywhere else. I mean, now that I worked at Pepsi in Jamaica, it had opened me up to an entire network in Pepsi America. And now at that point, I could have gone and gotten a job in the US if I wanted to, but it was Jamaica that opened that door for me, And so I would say that you have to be very intentional about what you're trying to achieve. And if it means that going to volunteer somewhere or going to understudy somebody for less money than what you had wanted before, be willing to take the risk. But again, know what you're going there to extract. Know what the reason is that you're going there. So if it is that you're just going there for the experience, soak up every single thing that you can get from the experience. If it is that you're going there to get experience and build your network, then be intentional about who the people are that you want to meet and how you're going to add value to them, because it's not just about meeting people because of what you can get. If you came to me and asked me to do this interview and you didn't do any preliminary preparation to figure out who I was, what I was going to be able to add, but how I was going to add value to your listeners, then I would have been like, okay, so you just see me on TV and you don't know nothing about me and you want me on your podcast? No, I'm not doing it. You know? So you have to be able to show that you also know where the value is that you're trying to extract and how you are going to know multiply that value. So in me pouring into you, how are you now going to pour into other people? How are you going to be a better person? How is it going to help in your development? And then how is your development going to help in my business or in other areas, you know? So I would definitely tell you that we live in a digital age. There is information everywhere. Do not wait on somebody to give you an opportunity. Create it.
Yeah.
Create it. I am sure that I could see your podcast somewhere and then I would call and say, hey, Nia, do you want to be on Emerge? Or hey, Nia, a company that I know just started a TV channel and they want family-friendly content. I think that your podcast would be great. You know what I mean? Like, you have to create opportunities for yourself. Learn everything that you can about the area that you want to be in. Become the expert. Again, we live in a digital age. There is information everywhere. Free content too. You don't even have to do paid content if you are not in a position to afford it. Look for the free content and extract the value from what you can get.
Thank you for that, because I love what you said about, you know, creating an opportunity for yourself, because a lot of people feel that because they don't see an opportunity, it means that there's no opportunity. And sometimes all it is that we need to just create that one for ourselves. And we never know how many opportunities might come from just opening the door ourselves. But not everybody's gonna be able to open the door for you. So
and identify the things that you're good at, because the things that you're good at can open up lots of doors. I mean, you even have right now, there are sites like Fiverr and I Thrive and all these other sites. And what skill set do you have that you can offer? It could be something as simple as a voiceover. It could be editing somebody's work. It could be writing, you know, doing speech writing for somebody, or doing copyright for somebody. Or, you know, if you're good at graphics, you don't need to wait to be hired. Listen, I am looking for good talent every single day. The project that I have that I'm working on, I always want good talent. Put yourself out there and get yourself noticed, but in a positive way.
In a positive way. And for all the young people, especially now, be careful how you use social media. Be careful, because as you mentioned earlier, you never know who is watching you. And back then, Cathy, what you were saying, that LinkedIn wasn't even a thing. And so I'm pretty sure that a lot of the social media platforms that we have now never really existed. Exactly. So it is even more imperative that we be careful how we use these platforms and what we post and what we say on them.
I had somebody without looking at their social media, especially in marketing. You have to be brand conscious. I met a young lady that told me that she's an influencer. And that she's a brand too, which is great. I have no problem with that. But if you work for me, you're a representation of my brand. And if that doesn't align with my brand, then you can't work for me. It's as simple as that. I am not trying to tell you not to be your authentic self. I just need to make sure that your brand, because you're now representing my brand, is aligned with what my brand represents.
Right.
And so I would tell anybody that you have to be true to yourself, but you also have to think about 5 years from now, is what I'm doing now and displaying on social media now what I want to be a reflection of 5 years from now. Because the truth is that you can't take it back. And if I have never hired somebody without looking at their social media presence, because it speaks to how you see yourself, the way that you think, the way that you operate, and what your values are. What you display speaks to who you are. And you can pretend to be a professional when you're at work, but if you're not like that outside of work, then especially in marketing, that's a challenge. Yeah. And there are many other professions that there will be conflicting. You know, there will be conflict. There is, if you're a lawyer, I need to know that my lawyer or my accountant or my doctor is responsible, and that how they conduct themselves, no matter how bright they are, and they could be the best doctor. If I go out and I see them drinking and smoking and carrying on outside of that space, I don't know that I would want them to be my doctor anymore, but that's just me, right? And so whatever it is that you're choosing to do, and however you're choosing to represent yourself, just make sure it's something that you're okay with at all times.
Right. So everyone, you heard that right from one of the best marketing strategists. You hear that? And that is that for social media.
Yep.
Cathy, as we wrap up, the last thing I really want to touch on is taking us back to the beginning of our conversation when you spoke regarding to your academics.
Yes.
As a resident assistant myself, I have dealt with students who were in your position, or who are in your position, and it's disheartening, and sometimes they cry and they feel as if there is no future, there is no success after this. They're at a crossroads.
Yeah.
So being that you were once in their shoes and you were able to pull yourself together, even though it did not happen overnight, and you were able to become such an amazing person now, what would you tell a student who is currently at a crossroads?
So I think that the first thing I would say is that when you're at school, acknowledge that you don't have any other responsibilities but to do your schoolwork. Be grateful for it and embrace it. I would also tell you that regardless of what your past was like, whether it was, bad grades, you didn't do well in a class, or you just gave up, you have the ability to choose to do better now. And I think that if we acknowledge accountability is important, and understanding that we are the reason that we're in that position is important. Because if we don't realize that we are in control of our choices and that we are the reason that we're here, then we won't appreciate that we are the reason that we're not going to be here anymore and that we're able to come out of that situation. Mm-hmm. And so accountability is important. Sometimes a lot of us put ourselves in a position where we feel like, oh, this teacher hates us, or, it's a teacher's fault, or my friends decided that they wanted us to go out that night. And so, it's not me, it's them. No, but you chose to go with your friends. You chose to get caught up in emotions about how that teacher was or how that teacher is, as opposed to focusing on your actual schoolwork. You're in college at this point. You're an adult, and so when we accept that we are responsible for our choices, and we now have the ability to make new choices, make different choices, but more importantly, make better choices, we're already ahead of the game. And so for me, when I realized that, look, you already wasted enough time, all of your friends, and let me tell you, all of my friends are either lawyers, doctors, or some kind of working professionals. When I was doing my undergrad, all of my friends were doing their master's or their law degree. Right. And so, thank God I had the support that I needed from them, and they never ever made me feel like I was less than, or that I was a waste of time, or that I was, but it's very important for us to acknowledge that our actions are determined by our choices. And everything that happens in our life, we have a choice. And so it's really about making better choices in our life to get better outcomes.
Okay, I'm gonna come to the bottom topic.
It's not the end of the world. You just have to start to do something new. My father always used to say, you can't expect to do the same thing and get a different result. Yeah.
So it starts with accountability, knowing that you have to change, and you want to change, and then now you have to make that.
And you're responsible for that change.
Yeah. For that change. Thank you for that, Cathy. So I have a special question for you that I ask all my guests. And that special question is, if someone were to make a movie about Catherine Goodall. Everything that you've been through, what would be the title?
Funny. It would be the title of what my book is. So my book, which is coming out this year, is called I Love Me More. And it really just is about seeing myself through God's eyes and falling in love with me from his perspective. And it's I love me more than the poor choices that I used to make, more than the people in my life that I thought I loved, and it really wasn't love. And it's you love yourself more than any bad decision that you could have made. And so that's what I would call it. I love me more.
I can't. Okay, I can't. Now that I know you're writing a book, I can't wait.
Written, it's done. It's actually being edited. It should have come out last year, but too much was happening.
For sure.
So it's being edited now. So hopefully this year it will come out.
Congratulations. And I can't wait to get my hand on a copy.
Lord, if you think you do stories today, you'll see how wayward I really was.
I'm happy that what I'm happy about is that you're so honest about all that you went through and the fact that you were able to share that with us today. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you so much for being so candid with us and for sharing the different layers that had to go into you becoming who you are today. So just thank you again. I can't thank you enough. We've my viewers and I have really found out many different things that I'm sure a lot of persons did not know about you. I always say we see our face, but we don't necessarily know the story. And a lot had to go in for you to become who you are today. So thank you again, Cathy.
Thank you.
Where can my viewers find you so they can keep up with you?
Lord, I'm everywhere, right? So my website is cathygoodall.com, but Instagram is cathy.goodall. Somebody stole my name. Cathy.goodall. And on Facebook, it's Cathy Goodall or Coach Cathy Goodall, any one of them. And LinkedIn is my name. So just, you can Google. I'm Googleable.
As you heard, she is Googleable. Please find her on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and I will be the one to state. Please go on YouTube and subscribe to the Ready to Emerge page. Watch the videos; they're very insightful. We just want to thank Cathy again for sharing and for unraveling her interesting journey. And please buy her book when it comes out because we definitely want to hear more. I just want to thank everyone that came out today and watched this video. I hope that you were able to take away many different nuggets that Cathy has dropped today. And I'm telling you, she definitely dropped so many different nuggets today. And everyone, please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and share with your friends and family or anyone you believe that would benefit from this discussion that we had here today with Catherine Goodall. Please take care, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.